Normally we have these meetings on Tuesday, but today we're having it on Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern to accommodate our guests who we're really lucky to have. The universe sent her our paths, made our paths cross, and I'm delighted that we've got this morning, we've got Rachel Jarmusz, who is a stroke survivor herself. And I don't want to tell too much of her story, but basically, she spent 5 years working on recovery before she discovered or turned to or whatever yoga, and healed herself and went on to become a yoga teacher, certified yoga teacher, which requires a certain amount of hours and things. And now she shares what she learned on her journey with the rest of us, kind of like I do, kind of like several of us do. I call it pay it forward stroke survivors. So Rachel, we're glad to have you here today. And I want to start off by just telling us a little bit about your stroke and initial recovery. And if you want to keep going, just keep going right on into how you discovered yoga. And if anybody has any questions, just feel free to put your hand up, put your digital hand up, wait for a pause, and ask them. Otherwise, we'll let Rachel go. We'll definitely have questions and answers at the end, because I want to have a little discussion about, the benefits of doing yoga in stroke recovery. So, yeah, sure. Rachel, there you go. Give us a little bit about your stroke.
So hi, guys. This is my first time here, obviously, too, so I'm just as nervous as everybody else. But 14 years ago, I had a stroke and I was 25. So it kind of completely changed everything. And because I was so young at that time, I mean, this was 14 years ago. Now strokes have become more, prominent, unfortunately, in younger people. But at the time, a lot of the therapists and people that would see me didn't really know what to do with me. So as I went through physical therapy, I was often bored, you know what I mean? And they would say stuff like, well, I honestly had therapists that would tell me, I don't really know what to do with you. So I had the stroke. It was from let me explain it. It was from a carotid artery tear on a roller coaster. So I was on a roller coaster, got off the roller coaster and had stroke-like symptoms. Went to the hospital, actually was misdiagnosed because of my age, and went through a whole thing there with just being so young. So it's immediately you're young and you have a stroke and you're like an alien. So I'm in the ICU for about 2 weeks. Then I do 30 days in intensive rehab because I'm completely paralyzed on my left side. And then I go home, and I'm doing outpatient therapy as much as I can. I'm hearing about all these new things like the SABO, I did Botox for probably 16 months. And so I just couldn't take it anymore. And then kind of got to the point, like Ralph said, it was 5 years into my recovery that I discovered that there was something called yoga. I had never done it before. I'm not a fitness person. I'm not into that sort of thing. But I went to a class in one of my day rehab intensive programs, because even when I got out of rehab, I did a lot of rehab. I did a day rehab program at this hospital in Chicago, and they happened to have a yoga class that I was walking by and was kind of could I do that? And the teacher was right there. So I asked her, and she was like, sure, come on in. And she was so sweet because I had a cane. And I'm walking and she's like, oh, we'll set you up right in the back. No one has to see you. It was dark in the room anyways. So it was I felt kind of invisible, and I could just move to the best of my ability and then forget the rest, right? So I did that for that hour. And when I left there, I was literally okay, what was that? What was that? It made me feel so nice. It made me feel so relaxed in my body and all of this spasticity that I had. And when I came into yoga, I was very, very contracted here in a fist that would barely even open, right? And now I'm finally, I don't really use the word healed because I don't think we ever really heal completely from something. And I'm definitely not someone that would say yoga healed me. It's helping me heal. It's a healing journey that I'm literally moving stuck energy through my shoulder, down my elbow, into my hand. And for the first time, have like a normal looking wrist. Like it's not contracted. And so I'll spend the next 6 months working on my fingers, opening my fingers and moving more energy and trying to get other stroke survivors to see that this is a very valuable resource that is like right under your nose, literally. It's called your breath. It's called your breath in your body, and moving in ways that make you feel nice, that help you relax and help you restore. Maybe not heal is the right word, but restore yourself back to, like, healing means to become whole. So you're restoring back to wholeness, restoring back to yourself by using your own self to heal. And I just think that that's such a beautiful message that, like, all trauma survivors, all stroke survivors should have access to this. I'm not saying that you have to love it as much as I do, because I'm like weird about it, but you could at least try it. You could at least go and say, oh, you know what? I didn't like that. You should have that option. That's all I'm saying, is it should be something that's offered in your rehab centers. Hell, it should be offered at like the Y, you know, a stroke specific chair yoga breathing gentle movement class, you know, that like would help people a lot. I don't charge personally for group classes ever. So if you want to do a class, I'd be totally down to do like an 11 a.m. this time chair class that I don't charge, but I do charge if people want to go further. If you want more, like, this is what I do. I do 4 sessions, which I honestly think is enough to learn what you need to learn, and then go on and like watch YouTube videos, because there's plenty of yoga out there that's decent chair stuff that you could watch. And if you know how to adapt your body, how to do something, you can. So it's not about me teaching forever. It's about giving tools to people so that they can learn for themselves. So I do 4 one-on-ones, 90 minutes, right? For free. If you choose to go deeper than that, like I've had people that want to learn like headstands or inversions or deeper stuff, I do charge. And that's like a monthly, it's like $55. You get access to 4 classes. But there's lots. I want this to be accessible, right? That's the biggest word, is that it's easy to find, easy to do, easy to learn, and you take it at your own pace.
I'm sorry to interrupt real quick, but you do headstands?
I do headstands, yes.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I was younger than you. I was 17 when I had my stroke, and yeah, I can't even imagine going inverted. Though just the blood rushing to my head and stuff, I'd fall over and hurt myself.
Well, here's
Instant.
the thing. Okay, so I talk a lot about I talk a lot about this on Instagram. I'm kind of annoying on Instagram about talking about inversions and the benefit of inversions to our body, and specifically to someone that has had a brain trauma, because like you just said, you're flipping the body. All of the blood is rushing into the body and pooling in a different way than it would normally pool in your body sitting upright or say laying down. So the benefit of that alone is outstanding, right? It's really cool to read the just the benefits of getting the body upside down. And for me personally, doing it, and I'm doing it with assistance. I'm not doing it on my head because I had an artery tear. So I'm like advised not to put pressure anywhere on my head or my neck. And I don't mess with that. Like, I'm not going to be that crazy to just be like, oh, I don't care. No, I have a device that's like you put your head in it and you go upside down. So there's no pressure. It's on your shoulders. And so and for me personally, getting upside down once a week has completely like taken away my vertigo. It's crazy because I didn't expect that to happen.
I always wanted to buy that machine.
I expected it to be like, I don't know what I expected. I just had this urge to get upside down, and I do Iyengar yoga personally, and they do a lot of inversions, shoulder stands, and then headstands. And so I was just like, well, that sounds like fun. Because I'm like, why not try, right? And so when I started doing them, my vertigo like went away. And I was like, holy shit, that's crazy. Because it like, when you're upside down, it like recalibrates your whole system. And at first you do kind of feel funny. It took me a while. Like, we do 3-minute headstands once a week. And it took me probably like 6 months to be able to do that. It took me consistent training, going upside down for first what felt like an hour being up there, you know, and you can be supported against the wall. You can rest your feet at the wall because it's very scary. I'm not gonna lie, it's scary, like, to go upside down. You're really scared, and you have to have something to catch you, but that's why you use stuff. Like, I hate this look that yoga has had, that like you're in the middle of a room on a mat. That's not like, you want to be surrounded by stuff to support you, blankets, pillows, props, chairs, everything. And that's the Iyengar style, is to get the body into alignment using stuff, right? There's an Iyengar chair. There's this chair that my computer is sitting on. This chair, this is an Iyengar chair. It's built like that with a middle part open so that you can do back bending through the middle. You go through the middle and you go over back. That's something that I'm working on. That's hard. That's probably harder than a headstand, but it takes time and you practice it. And I don't do yoga every day. I don't. And I don't think people should. It's something that I play with. Like, I might get into it a lot and then take like a week break, or like do it twice a week consistently. That's my goal. Like, I think the ideal goal is to do it twice a week. So that's what I'm working on. So you'd be surprised by what you can do, you know. Headstands sound kind of crazy, but I bet you all of you could do one. With the right coaching and the right teaching, I guarantee you. I mean, because I look at myself and I'm like, shit, if I can do it, I mean, like, my body's jacked up. Like, if I can do it, then I feel like there's no reason other people can't. And you could at least try.
I wondered about the headstands since you had the carotid artery tear. And it's interesting because we have lots of people asking about, is it safe to get back on a roller coaster? And I'm not trying to be a killjoy, but I just don't think it's a great idea for anybody to go on a roller coaster post-stroke.
I haven't been.
I tell them to do something I did. My ex-wife said something about the brakes not working on the truck. So I went to a parking lot, got going about 50 miles an hour and stood on the brakes, came home and laid down for about 2 hours. So I can't imagine. I used to be a big, I mean, I didn't travel all over the country, but if there was a roller coaster where I'd go, I'd go ride it, but I'm not sure about
I
it.
haven't been, it's funny because we live close to Busch Gardens in Virginia and my kids always want to go, and we were there last summer. And I went on like it was like a log ride, like a water ride or whatever. And I was like, let me try this to kind of see if I can get in that setting. And it was terrifying, and I will not do it again. I have no desire to get on a roller coaster. I think I would no, and I don't even think that it would be safe. And
I went to about 7 months after my stroke, I graduated high school, and our senior class trip was to Six Flags in New Jersey. And I went on a bunch of rides all day. I was dizzy as hell and felt sick to my stomach, but I pulled it off and I had a hemorrhagic stroke. I don't really think
everybody is different, right?
stop you. I think it causes a lot of vertigo and uneasiness, but
You
I
can,
can't say yay or nay if it's healthy for you.
right.
I tell people post-stroke, I'm done challenging gravity. Except I do ride my bike. I got back on my bike, and that's definitely a gravity challenge because you can fall over and get hurt. But anybody who's ridden a bike knows if you're going, it's really hard unless you hit a rock or sand or somebody cut you off or something. Once you're going, your momentum will keep you upright typically. It's the stopping and starting that's a little tricky. But tell us, I'm a big believer in, I tell people there are 3 things I think get overlooked, and that would be posture, alignment, and physics. You and I talked a little bit about this. Oh, by the way, Rachel and I talked for 4 hours and 5 minutes on our 15 to 20 minute introductory phone call. So you better look at, I'm bad. I finally met somebody who might be able to out-talk me. But anyway, tell us a little bit about, you expressed in our conversation that those things were important to you. And I'm curious what you think about them and how Iyengar yoga plays into it, how it helps with those things. Because we have a lot of people that
Say them again. You said posture,
posture, alignment, and physics, which is basically
okay. So let's take those 3 right there, and let's say that that's yoga. Everything that the modern medical rehabilitation arena has built for stroke is missing those 3 things. And yoga is a system. Yoga is not just one thing. I would add breath to the 4th because they don't ever tell you to breathe ever. And it's a very simple thing that they could encourage breathing, but they don't. Okay, but that's the 4th one. So all of those 4 things are yoga. And specifically, Iyengar yoga is alignment based. Everything that Iyengar did was based on biology, really, the anatomy of the body and how the body functions. And I don't know that he would say physics, but I think maybe he would just say that yoga is science, that yoga is a broader spectrum of a science of, there's like yoga, right? And then there's like 4 different styles of yoga that are like Kriya, Bhakti, and 2 other ones that I don't want to get too much into that because it's like a whole lot of stuff. But then you have Hatha yoga as a branch off of those different kinds of yogas that is this physical practice that we know as Americans to be posture, movement on a mat. That's Hatha yoga, right? And that it could either be called Hatha yoga or like Ashtanga. Ashtanga is like known to be what Americans have kind of developed as yoga. It's an 8-path. It's an 8-fold path. So there's 8 components of it. Being, I can say them if I can remember them. Yamas, niyamas, those are like the ethical components, right? So we have things that we want to do and things that we don't want to do. Those are the yamas and the niyamas. You very rarely see a yoga class that teaches or even talks about that in America, right? And so then you have asana, which is what we all hold on to, the posture, the physical part of it, the different positionings of the body that you do, right? That's the asana. Then you have the pranayama. Pranayama is breath, breathing exercises, breath control. I like to think of it as a breath expansion. So you're taking the breath really big and letting it out really nice. Okay, then you have pratyahara. Pratyahara is inner attention, inner focus. It's kind of like, okay, if we sit and we close our eyes, we close our mouths, and we breathe through our nose, all of our senses come inside. That's pratyahara, right? Then you have dharana and dhyana, which are, people kind of debate about which one is meditation because they both are meditation. One is a concentration and one is a deconcentration. So you can meditate either by focusing all of your attention on one thing or by releasing all of your attention onto nothing. So those are the 2 different meditation types. And then the 8th one is samadhi, which is liberation of the soul, I guess, freedom. I kind of hate that I said them in that order because they don't go in order. And I've heard so many yoga teachers reference them as like step 1, step 2, step 3, and they don't work like that. You don't go from one to the other. You actually want to integrate as many of them together. And then you just move through it, and you may reach samadhi, you may not. It's not like that's the goal. It's just one of them. That's the 8th one. So there's 8 things. And they're all fun to get into. You know, it makes me sad that the only thing that a lot of people know about yoga is the physical postures, the clothes, the mats, yoga is far deeper than that. It's far more than that. And beneficial. I mean, maybe we should talk about the actual benefits of it. Because, I mean, if you've done yoga, maybe you know the feeling of like, just kind of like calm, right? Like everything releases and you're in a space that is nice, right? And it's funny because, maybe not funny, but it's interesting how we've kind of known this as in a spiritual sense, known that, well, it makes you feel good. Makes you feel good. It makes you connected to yourself. It makes you feel peaceful. It gives you a sense of peace somehow. And now the science is playing catch up to what was known. I mean, yoga has existed in India for thousands of years. Hundreds of, I mean, it's older than humans, probably. And yet the science is just catching up. So you can Google like yoga studies, or I'm sure Ralph has shared probably a lot of them because there's quite a lot of research out there that says meditation itself creates more gray matter. 1 minute, this was a study done by Harvard in like, I think it was like 2012. So it's relatively new, but maybe even 2008 or something. It was when mindfulness-based stress reduction became like a thing. You could be trained in that, and that's a style of meditation. But it all comes from this study that Harvard did that says 1 minute is all that your brain needs. 1 minute. They did it based on 1 minute, based on 2 minutes, based on 3 minutes. And I think the study might have gone up to 5 as like an ideal time, but 1 minute. That just means in 1 minute, you can close your eyes and give your brain a little like zhuzh, like you're giving your brain a little like high five in 1 minute. So it's not even like I need an hour to meditate, or I need, whatever. And it's funny because people will tell me, yeah, but it takes me 60 minutes to get into that meditation place. And then I just have that last little window to actually be meditating. So I need the full hour. And I'm like, but here's the thing. Here's the thing is that there's no wrong way to meditate. There's no getting there. When you meditate, all you do is sit with yourself. You're not trying to stop your thoughts. You're not trying to clear your mind. If you're trying to clear your mind and get to a place where you feel like you're clear, now you're good to meditate. That's kind of backwards, really, because the idea of meditation is to sit and simply allow. What you're doing is you're setting your attention in your awareness. So you're just watching. Okay. Now, it might take someone a while to get to that place, possibly, meaning every thought creates tension. You're sitting there and everything you're thinking is like tense, right? But if you try to just sit and notice, it becomes a different experience. You're not actively involved with what's going on. You don't have a dog in the fight, so to speak. You're just watching. And that takes, yes, a certain amount of training with the mind, but it's not difficult. Humans are actually meditative by like our nature. Like that's how we're designed to be focused in our brains. So it's like, I don't know, we need to have more, I think, group meditation classes to get people into seeing it's not that hard. It's something that you can do if you have 1 minute. 1 minute. And I challenge people because I think that 1 minute actually adds an hour to your day, to your working day, in terms of not like, oh, my day is so much longer, but like, oh, I have so much more time to give to this. It frees time. That's what it's doing, is it's freeing time. So because people always tell me I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time. And I'm like, but it gives you time. It's like the rushing and the going and all of that meditation brings. It's like a snow globe. And you shake up a snow globe and then you're like letting everything settle. That's all you're doing when you're meditating. You're not trying to achieve nothingness, I guess.
I post some our research articles. I read a lot of them. I'm not sure. They don't get a lot of attention when you post them, so I'm not sure whether people would miss them if I didn't post them. So I haven't done a lot on meditation or yoga particularly. I could. We're big believers in breathing and meditation, though, and anybody, let's see, we got Ryan and Heather, at least are new, and we have a breath and meditation class on Fridays at 11, and I think tomorrow's number 43 or 44. So, and we put them all on YouTube. And yeah, so we've seen some of us have seen some of the benefits of breathing and meditation from, I've seen some through my phone, which told me about 4 or 5 months ago that my breath rate had gone down at night 15%, and it stayed down. And then recently I decided I would take my blood pressure while I was doing sometimes at night I do a little breathing and before I go to bed, and I decided to hook up my blood pressure cuff, and just in 5 minutes, my blood pressure dropped 25 systolic and 25 systolic, which
Wow.
is interesting. And so I posted that. So, as you know, stroke survivors, this is all kind of confusing to us. I mean, I'm glad you gave us a little overview, but you know, I treat all these meetings one way, and that is, I figure everybody out there is a stroke survivor, and what they basically want to know is, what's in it for me? You know, how do I take, what am I learning here that I can use in my own recovery? And it seems like Iyengar yoga is interesting to me. I'd never heard of it before. You and I talked about a week ago, and I've been to 4 or 5 different yoga classes and done some adaptive yoga and such. And so at some point you must have discovered that, and discovered that assume that you integrate that somewhat into your teaching style.
Totally. I don't know how I found that exactly. I think it must have been through a book, because I'm like such a reader that like I've read so much stuff. And there's a book called Light on Yoga that's written by BKS Iyengar. And so he's like very well known in the yoga world as being like, you know, almost like a father to yoga in a kind of sense. There are a couple of different men that kind of assume that role, but and so I kind of just saw it. And when I read that it was alignment based, forced in some instances, alignment based, they use weights like sandbags. They have something called a rope wall, which is like, I want to get to one really bad, because it's like all these different ropes, right, that you can use to like walk up the wall, walk down the wall. You can come forward doing downward dog, holding onto the ropes to stretch the shoulders and to lengthen the arms, and do all kinds of really cool stuff. And then the more I started to research it, the more I found that like there's like really like big yoga labs like in Milan and in different places in Italy and Europe that play with yoga and kind of see what the body can get into. And like, that just became like my thing. I don't know really how, but I think because I couldn't do so much that I was like, well, I feel like my body could get into it with a little bit of help. And so then we started using props and stuff like in my 200-hour training. And then I just kind of went on my own and found an Iyengar studio, found a teacher, found some books to read to really absorb the ideas that he puts out there, because it's all based on like, I guess alignment, getting the body, when the body is in alignment, it's like in like the perfect place, right? And so full healing can happen there. You're in your like fullest potential. You're able, and Iyengar was like, I think he was like 60 and still doing, there's pictures of him online doing these like back bend things with his, I mean, it's like crazy stuff. And you think, oh my gosh, like you don't want to encourage people to be reckless with something that they're doing, but the ability of the body has just always been so amazing to me. And after having a stroke, losing that control, it's really nice to have something that feels like it's giving you back some piece of control. So when it's in terms of like, what is this going to do for me? It's like, it's going to restore a lot of, I mean, I think yoga increases confidence. It certainly lowers blood pressure. That is a very tangible way to show numbers, you know, that it's working, but it does a whole lot of other stuff. You know, you'll become more flexible. You'll have better balance, sleeping better. Your appetite is better. Your metabolism is better. For me, it's like helps with headaches and stuff. Not to mention like anxiety, depression. Like, I think it was like, there was a quote by like the Buddha that says like, what have you gained from meditating? And that's always what people want to know. Well, what is this going to do for me? But he said something like, it's not about what I gained, it's about what I lost. I lost anxiousness. I lost worry. I lost fear. I lost depression. I lost the inability to sleep. I lost tiredness. I lost all of these things, just fell away. And that's kind of how it works. It's not like it does this magical thing for you. It just slowly allows things to fall away. And you're lighter and you're moving better. Your balance is better. You're eating better. You're feeling better, feeling energized, sleeping really good, and doing things like headstands, shoulder stands, you know, challenging yourself, challenging your body to try new things. And that's pretty cool because I think confidence is probably the biggest thing that yoga gives somebody, is like confidence in their own body. And we know that like it sucks to not feel confident inside of yourself and to feel kind of cowering away from things or people, and to get a restored sense of confidence via posture and alignment. And I mean, it's really cool what it does and how it can help, I guess.
So, I found that in taking yoga that I've gotten a lot more flexible. I used to be able to put my knuckles on the floor before I started yoga a couple of years ago. I went to touch my toes and I came up about 4 inches short of my toes. And I never practiced, but after about a year of doing yoga, I said, oh, I wonder if this is doing any good on my stretching. I went down and touched my toes, no problem. I'm not to palming the floor at 73 years old yet. But the other thing, the reason I'm so fascinated with this alignment and posture thing was I found it was really important, along with symmetry, learning, how to put your arms out straight and where you are in 3D space, proprioception. But I find that a lot of people get to where they can walk, where they've got pretty good balance back. They start working on drop foot. They kind of get over drop foot. They're kind of walking, not quite, but almost a normal pre-stroke speed and everything. But you look at them and they're out of alignment, particularly things like hips and stuff. So I think that this alignment stuff is kind of well, I don't think it hurts anybody, even sitting in a wheelchair to do alignment type stuff. But I think it's kind of like the last frontier for folks who've, like me, who've done a lot of recovery. I can walk 4 miles. I can bend down and pick up things. I do a lot of things, but I know my body's not aligned. It's aligned better than a couple of people I know who are in recovery in our little community. The other thing I found is, in the beginning, in chair yoga, would do, warrior 2. And I tried standing up then I tried standing up, holding on with a chair. At the beginning of yoga class, I wouldn't try and get in warrior 1 out in what I call outer space, out in the middle of a room. I don't think anybody should do anything much out in outer space. I think you should always have something to hold on to, even if you don't need to hold on to it. It should be there just in case. So I like the whole chair thing as well. But I found that so just like touching my toes, after about a year, I said, well, and I had a lot of fear about doing it. I probably could have done it, because when I said, okay, I'm just going to try it, I was standing up and bingo, no problem. You know, getting into, it's basically a lunge with your arms out. So it was been a confidence builder for me, and something that I think has helped both with my balance and flexibility, and hopefully some with alignment. So that's why I when you and I started talking and I found out about this, I got real excited. Also, my daughter's a yoga teacher. I mentioned it to her because I'd never heard anything about it, and she's been teaching 28 years. And she said, oh yeah, sure, I know that. He was one of the two people that basically brought America. I think you kind of alluded to this, like kind of like one of the fathers of yoga. She said he was one of the two people that helped popularize the yoga in the United States, and not real yoga, not the don't I look good in these yoga pants yoga that you don't care for. I get a kick out of that. Yoga is not about how good you look in your yoga pants.
No, it's
Well,
not.
for some people it is, I guess. But for us, we're all trying to get better. We're all on that, same, lifelong healing journey. And people go, oh God, I don't want to have to get better the rest of my life. Guess what? Even if you don't have a stroke, you ought to be on a lifelong healing and getting better journey, shouldn't you? I mean, that's the way I look at it.
It's like self-care. Like, it's like you wouldn't just drive your car without servicing it and drive it and then not expect there to be a problem. Like, stroke or no stroke, your body is a vehicle. It's taking you through this life, and it needs certain things from you at certain times. And yoga for me kind of has been all of what you said, 100%. The reason why I got interested in Iyengar specifically was because of the alignment, and because I thought my body is so misaligned, that would probably be helpful, right? That would probably be something that I should be doing. That's kind of what I thought. And yeah, I mean, but yeah, I was going to say that for me, yoga, I lost my thought. So on that note, I feel like I should stop.
That's okay.
I should stop talking, and maybe other people want to share or ask questions or say.
In fact, the person I was referring to is who's working on alignment, and she and I talk about alignments. Our breath and meditation class teacher, Angelia, and she just joined us in the last couple of minutes, just in time to hear you talk a little bit about alignment. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to this, because I think it's a big issue for, like I said earlier, I don't see how alignment could hurt anybody, even in a wheelchair. But I think it's like kind of the last frontier for some of us who've gotten fairly ambulatory and but still don't have that alignment that we used to have. And it's really a matter of well, I always say, when I try and describe stroke to people who haven't had one, I'll say it's like a lightning bolt that goes through half of your body and leaves you all tight. And that tightness, the tone or spasticity or hypertonicity or whatever you want to call it, tends to pull on muscles and misalign us. And so, the whole time we're fighting spasticity to get back to alignment. And like, I overcame spasticity, but I didn't get back to alignment just off of overcoming the spasticity alone. I have a video on my YouTube channel I call it neutral. I call it neutral position. It's basically mountain pose. I did it with my hands like this. You flip your hands out and turn them like that, and it's a yoga mountain. It's called mountain pose. So it's funny because people think they don't know anything about yoga, but they'll get down on the floor and stretch out, and that's child pose. And people do stuff like, a lot of people working on shoulders do stuff like, put their scapulas together and they're round them out. That's cat cow. There's a lot of things that overlap in terms of the exercises, but I agree with you that the mindset around yoga is different than what you encounter in physical therapy. They're pretty sterile in most of the physical therapy I've gone to, for lack of a better term. So,
Yeah.
anybody got any questions? Angelia, welcome. Somebody.
Hi, Ralph.
Thank you, Ralph.
Was that you, Eric? Go ahead.
Yes. You keep saying iron guard yoga. Can you spell that? I'm not sure if you're saying like iron or IAN.
Or is
IYE.
IYE. Hold on.
I got it.
GAR.
IYEN.
IYE. I and then N. IYENGAR.
Got it. Thank you very much.
I'll type it into the chat too.
Thank you very much. Let's see it.
Ryan already said to everyone, Iyengar, he spelled it out. Well, Ryan, do you know something about yoga that we don't know about you?
Hey, Google.
Google. He's just, oh wait, you're muted.
There you go. Sorry.
There you go.
No, I can't take credit for that. That's my wife. She is my Google goddess.
Oh,
That's how I got here in the first place today.
she's
There you
quick. She's quick.
amazing.
She's a keeper.
So
Totally.
quick, her name could be Alexa.
Almost.
Yeah. So Angelia, you missed a little bit of this.
I know, I'm so sorry. I really wanted to be here, but I
just want to know.
was at physio this morning and
This
it
is
went
a-
long.
issue to you, so I wanted to give you a chance to interact if you wanted, and if you don't, then that's okay too.
Yes, hi
Yep.
Rachel, it's good to meet you.
Hi. Nice to meet you. Yeah.
I'm so excited about you and this talk and you possibly being a part of the group and everything and seeing what you got to offer. It just excites me tremendously because alignment is something that is my nemesis right now. And I am doing everything I can to pull the alignment back into my body with the knowledge that I have acquired through this journey. I still have so much to learn and it's a work in progress. So,
Do you
but
do yoga?
I'm sorry.
Do you do yoga?
Yes, I do. Every single day. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't practice yoga and breath work. I just started with this new physio and he's really into yoga too, which I love. And he's been pretty helpful with trying. I've only seen this guy 3 times and my alignment has improved dramatically. Like I'm standing upwards more than I'm hunched over and tilted to the side, which is great. Like I'm actually, you can't really see me that well, but I'm actually like vertical more. I was really like this a lot and my spine is curved over now because of the alignment problems that I've had for the last 4.5 years. So this has been something I've been doing yoga now for 2 years and it has literally pulled my body back up into
Uh-oh. She froze. Of course, I'm immediately thinking, how do we get this physical therapist to, is into yoga to come on one Tuesday or Wednesday and talk
I'm
to.
not kidding. This guy really knows what he's doing, and he knows stroke. I mean, he's unbelievable. 3 visits, that's all it had. And like, I look at videos of our breath class from before, and I can see myself fall to the right all the time. And like, I've been doing a lot of mirror work too with this. And I'm really starting to see a significant difference with the small little things that he has shown me. And it was great. Like, I walked in and he just kind of saw where my deficiencies were, rather than, I think the other guys just didn't really have a handle on what stroke was about and how to like pull the muscles that weren't firing into a firing range, you know, with the other therapists that I've seen. The things that I found to be the best have been breath work and yoga. They're like my favorite. And the style of yoga that Ralph had explained to me that you do sounds so intriguing. So I really look forward to taking one of your classes, definitely. And I apologize for jumping in late. I just didn't want to miss the whole thing.
You're fine.
So how do we get your physical therapist to come on and talk to us with you and me and Rachel, and we'll
I'll
talk
have to chat with him. Let me chat with him.
You know,
I'll chat with him.
I'm thinking more because I've heard that from more than one person other than Angelina. I've heard that actually from this woman. Where are you, if you don't mind me asking, where do you live?
I'm in Cleveland, Ohio.
Ohio. Okay, so there was a woman in California and a woman in, I think, Washington State, that both said the same thing, that they had, one woman actually had her neurologist, I think, refer her to someone to do yoga within the physical therapy community, because he really, and I asked her, I said, could you ask him, what is he basing that on? How did he get that education to know that? And she said she would ask him, and then I never really heard back. But that would be a really interesting conversation to have, I think, because there are maybe younger, maybe, I don't know what it is, but it seems to be a trend of a lot of neurologists and physical therapists shifting gears a bit too. What I was going to say to add to what you're saying is that it's all about the subtle movements, okay? Stroke recovery is not a big, loud thing. It's a very quiet, soft, one of my favorite books is called The Subtlety of Yoga. And it talks all about how yoga really is a subtle thing of shifting places back into places, like you're shifting, and it's the smallest movement sometimes that you might think is doing absolutely nothing.
And it gives you the biggest release.
It's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's intense sometimes.
Isn't it?
Is. Yes. It's so good.
It's so good though. I know when I started teaching, like I teach a group chair yoga class here where I live once a week. And it's mostly older people, seniors. Like once in a while we'll get a stroke survivor, which makes me very like excited to meet another stroke survivor, but it's mostly just older folks. But when I first started teaching there, I got a little bit of pushback from them because my classes were so boring. People were falling asleep. We'd be sitting there breathing and people would be falling asleep and like almost falling out of the chair, because everything that I do is so geared towards you bringing your attention inside and sending those very soft little messages to maybe shift onto the left sitting bone, or to shift onto the right sitting bone, or to bring your chin up to where the wall meets the ceiling. The very little things that, like Ralph said, mountain pose. You're literally just standing. You're not doing anything. you're standing, you're feeling your body, you're feeling your feet. And one thing that I do is like, it's like a big yoga therapy thing that's called the 4 corners of the feet. So we usually start a class drawing your attention down into your feet and tracing the 4 corners of your feet and breathing. You know, your first diaphragm is in your feet. So when you breathe, you're breathing up in literally through your feet. Your feet have like, what did I just read? Like 2,000 nerve endings or something. It's like crazy. There's so much energy right there and so much sensation. And often a lot of the misalignment that we speak about is because of the feet, because you're using, say, the outer edge more on one side than the other. Maybe you're using more of the heel on one than the other. And how do you really correct that? Well, you could get insoles, which I have and use and think are really nice, but you could also send your attention down into your feet, breathe into your feet, and notice your heels. Notice the outer edges of both feet. Trace it. Come to the pinky toe. Pause. Breathe. Go to the big toe. Pause. Breathe. This is part of a whole sequence that we do. So this is like you would do this in class, you know, like with your feet grounded. And that alone, we might even, I might, depending on the day, we might do it seated and then do it standing again. I also really like standing up against a wall with your back to the wall. Or if you can lay down on your back with your feet on the wall, like on the baseboard. That's a really good way to do Tadasana and to really notice what's out of alignment. You really feel it, and it can be really intense to just sit with that. It almost makes you feel like you want to stop. You want to get the heck out of there, right? But it's a matter of just like breathing into it and being like, okay, I'm going to be okay with this. I know myself, my left hip has dropped a bit, right? So that makes my left leg tiny bit longer than my right leg. And so that screws my whole body up completely, right? And so I'm constantly dealing with kind of pressing that left hip back so that it doesn't like slip away. And I know that might sound kind of weird, but if you're a stroke survivor, you kind of know the little mishaps that the body has and how like you might feel really weird here one day or feel really weird here one day or feel the knee or feel the foot or whatever. It's like glitches, I call them. Like my body has little glitches, and then I'm like attending to it. I'm like listening, and I'm like, okay, that's going to be my practice. So when I come into yoga, or when anyone comes into yoga, you ask yourself, what do you need today? What does your body need? Because it's going to be different every day. Maybe today your heel has been bothering you. It's tight, spastic, and it's annoying, and it's been bothering you. Maybe your neck is up funny, whatever. And then you kind of, I love like tell, like a lot of yoga teachers do, like, well, throw out a body part. You know, that's what we're going to do today. And so that I like that kind of interaction of like, what do people need? That's kind of what a yoga class should be. A community yoga class should be like, what do we need today? Throw out a body part, throw out a name of something that's been bothering you, and let's address that. And then you like attend to it. And it does kind of suck in a way that you have to do that, but this is where we're at. And so if I want to be able to move, I feel as though I need yoga in my life right now because it helps me find freedom of movement and to be able to keep up with my kids and to be able to go and have the energy I want. I need that. I need this for my body. And so it makes it easier to kind of do, I think, if you look at it like that, because you're kind of like, well, it's like drinking water. You might not want to, but shit, you know, you have to. Like,
I love that. I just want to speak into that for a second because the woman that Ralph had on last week spoke into the fact that the stroke doesn't take a break. And the symptoms, the residual symptoms that are left over have not taken a break. They have changed massively and consistently through this journey because I keep working at it. And it's just like the breath. You can't stop breathing and expect to live. After you experience such a traumatic hit into your body systems, you can't just expect to wake up one day and boom, everything's fixed and la la la. You know, it's just not going to be like that ever again. And finding a place of like not even joy, but some kind of like peace within this type of a practice has been not just healing to the body and the mobility, but it has affected me so dramatically on a physiological level that it has changed the expression of who I naturally am back to the human being I was prior to all the crazy trauma that I went through, which is the biggest bonus out of a practice like this. I absolutely can't say enough good about it. So, like I said, it's really great to meet you.
I could not agree with all of that more. Like that is so much. It literally is everything that you just said. Like you're stroke. And here's the thing is that I think about myself sometimes before my stroke, and I wonder, like, I would have never been doing yoga. I would have never gotten to this place of being so invested in myself and so invested in building my body into a really efficient system that may not be perfect, but it's you know, it's moving along with me nicely. I wouldn't have done any of that had it not been for my stroke. And so that being said, am I grateful in a sense for this very bad thing that happened? Absolutely. I am very grateful. And that perspective shift, I think, is what breath work and yoga does, is it's changing your brain. So it's changing your ideal of, I'm going to get better. I'm just going to get better. I hear people say it all the time. And I have to say, like, I'm not doing that. I'm not making you better. I'm not giving you your life back before your stroke. I'm not doing any of those things. And quite frankly, that's hard sometimes to get across to people that come to want to do yoga, in the sense of like, they just want you to tell them what to do. They'll do it and then they'll just be better. And then, okay. And I'm like,
that's what people are used to. That's what, I don't want to down the medical field, but that's what the medical field does. They read books and they're all knowing. So that's what they do. They tell people what to do, and this is going to be the outcome, whether you want it or not. That's what's going to happen.
well, that is not this. This is a different
Well, I
state
understand that.
to,
I mean, I've done enough yoga and breath work and meditation to know that it's all in your head. And yes, that happens after a while. You get very, very grateful about that this is happening to me. I mean, I've spent hours thinking about how this is actually probably a positive thing that's happened in my life, that I got to spend so much time on myself and work on myself and sit with myself in my thoughts and think about my breath and everything I've done. And I feel, and I know I wouldn't have done that in my life if had this never happened. I would have been doing something totally different.
That's so cool.
So I think we all get to that point, and then it comes to a point where you feel that you're that hero that you were looking. You
Well,
find that hero within yourself.
one thing I want to point out to people is that I don't know if Winnie felt the same way. Winnie and I started doing my sister-in-law Chris's class a couple of years ago, about the same time. And I remember I was sitting there going, we're doing stuff like, putting your hand on your opposite knee and your hand behind your back and twisting, and then going to this side. At first I'm going, what's this going to do? Well, guess what? My lumbar spine got a lot more flexible. I have some issues with it that are not stroke related that subsided somewhat. But I'm here to tell you, in the beginning, I went like, what's this stuff doing? This isn't like, I guess because I'm a guy and, more is always better. So I was saying it wasn't intense enough, and but it's subtle. So when you do like a figure four, one of my knees, it's funny because my affected leg, my knee was much lower because I did a lot of hip opening, abduction and such in my recovery. And my unaffected leg, my knee was like 4 or 5 inches higher when I did a figure four. Well, gradually it's going down, we push on it just a little bit. And so the changes, what you do in a chair yoga class, you might have the same thought as I did, like, is this doing any good? But I've experienced after a couple of years of doing it, it didn't take all that long. Like I said earlier, I noticed, 6 months in, I could touch my toes. I've noticed that the movements are really subtle, and therefore I got this misguided idea that what could they possibly be doing? And the changes are slow and subtle, but they come. So I would suggest to anybody and everybody who can do it, and that would be, in my opinion, that would be everybody out there, because when he's got something to say, or maybe not. But in the beginning, she wasn't doing stuff. Her arms come a long way. She's doing like, when we raise our hands now, she grabs one and puts them over her head. Used to look like this. Now it looks like this. Yeah, I can watch her grab her hand and help it come up but she's got the range of, I'm not trying to pick on Winnie, of course, but she's gotten back range of motion in her shoulder. Was that entirely due to yoga? Probably not. She's probably doing some other things, but we'll let her talk for herself. Winnie, do you think that yoga's helped you and with your shoulder and other things? How's it helped you?
Yes, it did. Because first of all, when I'm in bed, it starts everything with bed. It's like I wake up and then I stretch and I do all my yoga poses in bed, because I know I don't want to fall. So I do my figure four in bed and all the other stretches. And then I get up and do my posture pose, because to me, posture is really important, because if without the posture, I cannot walk, and walking is important to me. And so I said, first of all, I need to pose up and stretching everything and saying it, I'm going to be straight in line. And so alignment comes into practice. And then I do my, what is that, Prof? That stretching, warrior four too. And do that, I stretch and all that, left and right. And then I do my soupy grind. To me, that again is my alignment of my spine. And so I do all of that, and then I stand up and from the side of my bed. And if I cannot stand up on the side, then I get back on my bed and do some more stretches, because I cannot tell you how important the stretches are, because, because without that, you cannot really walk. So after I get all that in line, I make sure I'm breathing right. and then I start walking, and I put on my shoes and I go out in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, I start walking. It's amazing. If I know I'm in line, I can walk further away than my short little distance before when I started. It was amazing. All this yoga poses I'm doing every Sunday morning. It may not seem like I'm doing anything, but I'm really liking that 5:30 in the morning, I get up. And so I said, oh, it's Sunday morning, it's yoga time. And I do it because I say I am benefiting from Ralph's sister-in-law. And I like the breathing class because that helps me. It makes me go further away and walk back without any help from anyone. And so some people see me along and they say, oh, you're doing good. I said, thank you. And I keep walking. Some will talk to me, but I'm saying, oh, I got to finish up my walking. So they said, all right, have fun. I said, I will. And I keep going. But, you know, all of this movement and everything really makes a difference.
I think, listen, all of that. And what I think needs to happen in a sense is, okay, like I kind of see myself as part of a bigger movement that is getting, like what I want to do with some of the people that I work with is actually measure the distance, the angles, right, that they can get, because this is part of what I think stroke yoga and like the work that I personally do with people is going to be about getting, somehow there needs to be that, what she just said, that, and
the data, all the data needs to start getting collected.
That's what I'm saying, is the data needs to be put together so that, like what she just said, she does 4 poses, right? So she's doing figure 4, which is pigeon pose. You're doing pigeon pose on your back when you're crossed over here and you're pulling in, right? That's a key pose for stroke survivors. So if this gets put, or I shouldn't say if, when this gets put in hospital systems and rehab centers, they have quantifiable data that shows X amount of people have used X amount of poses to achieve 20%, 40%, whatever reduction. I don't even know how those numbers work, but I'm learning, right? I'm going to learn some of this stuff because I have people that are showing these results, and I feel like it's so amazing to hear, but like the world needs to hear that. Everybody needs to hear that. And we need to maybe make maybe just a stroke specific page to share.
2 things real quick. One is, I agree with everything Winnie said, but there was a hidden message there that a lot of us here know, maybe not everybody does, but I want to repeat it. I want to say what it is, in my opinion, for everybody who's watching on YouTube who may not realize this. And the other part of what Winnie was talking about was, nobody told her how to do all that stuff. She adapted that to her bed, to her routine, to her life, to the way that she lives and she's recovering. And that ability or willingness to adapt is really key in stroke recovery, because so many people they see something online and they go, well, I can't do that because I don't have that. I don't have one of those, or I can't do that. And they let various things stop them. And the person that adapts is, first of all, got a curious mind. They're somewhat driven, or they wouldn't just sit back and go, I can't do that. So it's really important to be able to adapt. Rachel, some of these folks have heard me preach more about, I don't think we're getting what we need as stroke survivors. And one of the things, that I don't think we're getting is, yoga fits into that. And I've talked about doing, real, if we could raise money. I have a nonprofit. I'm working on this. It's slower than molasses in January, but ultimately, I think it would be good to fund these kinds of studies and get this kind of information, make a video about, yoga and stroke for physical therapists, make one for yoga studio owners so that you could get more classes in. But if it's quantifiable, you could get it to be a part of physical therapy. And there are physical therapists out there. We touched on this before. And I could add one to that mix if we wanted to talk about alignment. That would be the woman that you watched the video that I did with her, Nydia Darby. She's a doctor of physical therapy and a 30-year yoga teacher. So she'd certainly have something to add to that conversation about alignment. Okay, so I've already said 2, and so there's really 3 because I brought Nydia in. But the Young Stroke Survivors Support Group is owned by the Medical University of South Carolina Stroke Recovery Research Center. I think I've said that a couple of times. And they do triple blind studies. And I know several people there. I do free video and free photography for them. So they're, I hope they like me. Anyway, I could talk to them about the idea of perhaps we could find a lot of the studies are done by graduate students in therapy. I didn't realize this, but they write when they become doctors of physical or occupational therapy, they kind of write like a thesis, like a doctor does for a regular PhD. Well, it is a PhD, but they often involve these studies. So all we'd really have to do would be to find somebody. Actually, I like Michelle Woodbury's an occupational therapist there, and she's a teacher. So she is supervising some of these projects. So all I got to do is I need to talk to her anyway. I've been about 2 years and I want her to come on one Tuesday and talk about some things. But I should call her and see and put the bug in her ear that this would be something interesting, and it should be interesting to them. So if I put a bug in her ear, maybe she can find a graduate student or somebody to do the study, and then would have something. That would really be something else, especially if the results are like we would predict them to be.
Really quite funny, actually, because I have a girlfriend who is a nurse, and she kind of has been like encouraging me on what to do, how I'm doing this and everything. And I had mentioned that like I have all this awesome data, and like I want to put it into a study somehow, right? And get it into some sort of whatever. And she was like, Rachel, she's like, you can't do that. You have to find a graduate student. She said just that. She said, go to any medical school and request to find someone that is doing forget what she called it. Like, I guess they're like clinicals or something, that maybe has an interest in yoga.
Triple blind study is usually the gold standard.
There you go, and do that, and that would be amazing. So that I think that can happen or should happen. And
I can't guarantee it, but I can guarantee you I'll be calling Michelle Woodbury this afternoon. And as far as I know, the Stroke Recovery Research Center, they got a $25 million grant from NIH to do this. So the only outfit in the country. They have a 4-story building full of computers and hooked to treadmills and overhead tracks, moving. They have all kinds of stuff. And what they're doing is they've harnessed the power of these graduate students that, like your nurse friend was talking about, into a way, and dealing specifically with stroke recovery. And they have controls. They do, blind studies so that the results are quantifiable. And the Medical University of South Carolina is well thought of everywhere in the country. So if we get such a study done and positive results from it, like we all suspect, that would be a huge tool in maybe taking this back to physical therapy. See, I got this whole idea that if we're not getting what we want, then we have to go back to the teaching hospitals And our friend John Loomis is working, and what was his name? It was in a meeting the other day. I can see him. Anyway, there's several of us working back with students, trying to let them know like what the stroke experience is about. I think we could make continuing education, because all therapists and doctors and practitioners have to do continuing education every year. What if we made interesting continuing education that they picked? They get to see like the various courses that are offered. What if there was a course that benefited the stroke community that they found interesting? Then we're kind of like slipping our message under the door, aren't we? And that's what I think needs to happen. So
the whole idea, it's like Ralph and I are like on exactly the same wavelength, and it's so refreshing to hear, because I am writing a occupational therapy training manual of sorts that is stroke yoga, right? And it's a whole bunch of different modalities, because like I said, yoga isn't just one thing. So you can't just say, okay, it's just stretching. It's not just stretching. It's a whole, like we've talked, it's a whole lot of things, but I cannot do that. Like the idea is my plan for my personal yoga journey is to get my next training, which is my 300 hour. And when you add that to your 200 hour, you become a 500 hour. A 500 hour is kind of a big deal in the yoga community, because you can accreditate a school within your name and then train. You can do either 2 or 3 CEU credit courses. You just have to run them through. Like what I have to do is I have to write it. I have to send it to them. They look at it, they make notes, they send it back. And so I just have to keep doing that and keep going forward with my education, and hopefully pass the baton off, because I don't want to like be doing everything, right? Like I obviously can't and don't really want to, but that, because you think about it, how do you, like you said, how do you get something that you want? Well, I tend to think, or tend to maybe fight the system a bit too much. Like, this is so stupid that they're like this. It's so stupid that they don't offer this. But then I'm like, what good does that do? It doesn't do any good, really. Where you need to get them is when they're in school. What are they learning? Because the PT is only teaching you what they're learning. And if they're not learning this stuff, well, obviously they're not going to be teaching it. So, but the reason that they're not learning it is not because it's not valuable, or because it's not, there was like the poses that I use are from a study that was done, I think in 2008, that took 12 stroke survivors and did yoga with them. But it was what they called mindfulness-based yoga. And so it was just a series of seated poses and breathing, right? It was just that simple. And the study said at the end, more data should be collected, because it works. It works. The phrase I think was that it added to whatever therapy that the person was already doing. So like it made everything better. Like whatever therapy the person was doing, whatever thing the person was trying to achieve, it enhanced it. It was an enhanced, I forget exactly what they said, but you can find the study for yourself later. But that's kind of what I take and say, well, the research is there. The research is there. We know that it works. Now we just have to get it more into these little blind studies, do it again and again and again, and get classes going and groups going of people. And really, my goal is to create somewhat of a community for people to, because I think about what would I have wanted in my journey. I would have wanted maybe like a journal, or a pamphlet or something handed to me about yoga, what it could do, and then classes in my area, classes online, things like that to draw people together so that people can talk about it. People can say, hey, I did this. Hey, I mean, it's fun when you have people to like do it with, do yoga with, you know, like you can, partner yoga is a big thing that I do. And I always encourage people when they do a private session to, if someone's at home that wants to help and come and do different manipulations. Sometimes the body can't get into alignment, right? So it's like a matter of gently nudging the body there with a weight or with something that is non-intrusive, not gonna hurt. But like you said, when you're in pigeon, when you're figure 4 and you're pressing, you can be a little forceful with the body. The body is gonna go where you take it, like where your attention goes is where your breath is gonna go. And that's kind of all that matters, right? Is that you're breathing into it, you're there, and then you're gently showing the body what you want it to do. You're saying, okay, you're gonna do this. No, the body doesn't want to do that. It's gonna pull back. And then you say, no, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna breathe. And then you could probably do headstands, right? You could probably get into all kinds of poses because you're just in that relaxed state and you're more fluid.
Why don't I see if I can get Dr. Woodbury to have a Zoom call, just the 3 of us to talk about it. Well, I haven't spoken to her in 2 years. We do some emailing and communicating. I helped one of her graduate students promote a study that she wanted to do on the effect of dance on stroke recovery. So I know that they're open to this kind of thing, or they wouldn't have let that student. In addition to teaching, she's also an advisor for some of these people, and everybody who does a study, every one of the graduate students who do a study has an advisor. So she would be really good. While you were talking, Billy sounds a little bit like something that, yeah, he's nodding his head because he knows exactly what I'm going to say. Dr. Julie Schwartfeger, who's done some wellness stuff, is also a researcher. Let's see, who else do we know? We know Dr. Carol Lee Weinstein at the UCLA Neuromotor Recovery Lab. Also, I'm working with the people at the Boston University Neuromotor Recovery Lab. Yeah, after I had Julie and Carol Lee on my show, I introduced them to Dr. Awad, who runs the Boston University thing, thinking they didn't know each other, and it was an embarrassing moment because they worked together. I mean, yeah, we know Lou. You know, I said, you know, Dr. Awad, you know, and they came back and an email says, oh yeah, we love Lou. We've been working with him for a while. So there are other places out there. You know, I think, you know, we could talk about a strategy to do this. This is, you know, getting beyond the scope of like, what'll yoga do for me? But it's certainly important. If we get a study done and get some information put together, like a little consortium, maybe of those 5 people, maybe I can get all those people working together on yoga. Boy, that'd be a trick. It's hard enough to get one of these. I don't know if anybody's ever worked with universities, but they're kind of like the government. They move real slow. Anyway, I'll make that call. We'll see what we can do towards, you know, that goal. I didn't set a goal of bringing it into every yoga studio in the country like you, but I just defined it differently. I said, I want to bring yoga to as many stroke survivors as I can, because it was before I started doing it. I've been on this for 4 years and doing yoga for about 2.5. So, I mean, I'd taken a course here and there before I got on a mission, because I used to take it at the YMCA. I just adapt. I'd be in a chair and I'd get up or sit down depending on what I needed to do to adapt it for myself. So Why don't we see if anybody's got any more questions and then we'll let you go, Rachel, because I don't want to hold you here forever. You got a life like the rest of us. Anybody got anything they want to chime in or ask before we let Rachel go?
Yes, Rachel, you have anything to do for your neck?
Your neck.
Yes.
Your neck. Okay. Yeah. You just do like this. Sit. Maybe let's end on this note, right? Let's sit for a second. Close your eyes and just take a breath in. Take a breath out. Now you're gonna go with your right ear ever so softly towards your right shoulder, not meeting it or making it touch by bringing the shoulder up, just leaning in. Stay there for a moment. Soften towards it, kind of like you're snuggling into a pillow, right? You're like,
Feel it right here.
Right, it's gonna stretch that whole opposite side. So then you'll go to the other side. You'll kind of notice like which side is, which I didn't ask you which side is bothering you, but it could be either side. It could even be the whole of like the back, which we'll get to in a second, but do the other side and relax through the opposite shoulder. Let yourself stay here for a moment because you're not going to relax initially. Initially, you're going to get into it. You're going to feel like tight, right? That's normal. Now from here, drop your chin towards your chest and let your chin center in your chest. Let your head rest here. Breathe as if you're breathing into the cervical spine here and you're lengthening the back of the neck. Almost like your head is shooting forward, right? It's not so much down. It's a little bit down. It's like down and forward. Breathe into the back of the neck here. And if you can, take your head side to side. Like you're looking to your right shoulder and you're looking to your left shoulder. If that hurts, don't do it. Or you could possibly take a hand to the back of the neck and just start to create a little heat and relax the neck. Breathing as if you're breathing into the neck, right? So how do you breathe into a body part? You just visualize the body part and breathe. Say the word neck in your mind and breathe. That's how you breathe into the neck. Now let both of your arms fall onto your lap here and pick your head up. Take your head all the way up, lifting the chin as high as you want to go, maybe making the heart come a bit forward. Continuing that inhale and taking a soft exhale out the mouth, bringing the head back to center. Pause for a moment. And give your head a little shake. No. Yes. Big, full, deep breath in and out. So I could do that for another like probably half an hour of like rolling the head around and coming all the way around and doing all kinds of cat cow, because cat cow is cool, but you can isolate cat cow for just the head or for just the shoulders or for the pelvis. You can do it. Yes, it is a system and we want all of it to move. But if you're having pain somewhere and you need that attention, then you can just cat cow here. Cat, cow. Cat, Now, I say that, but when I teach cat-cow, I put more of the attention on the pelvis so that you're rounding the pelvis backwards and forwards. But if someone comes into class and says, oh my gosh, my neck hurts, what do I do? Then we start with a really easy cat-cow here. Just kind of warming the body up, taking it side to side, shaking your head no, like you're telling somebody no. Not doing it. And then yes, honoring space for both, right? And then you feel a little better, maybe, hopefully. That's a good warm up to do for the neck.
So when you know some of those from Chris's class, we do a little bit of neck stuff when we warm up before we start moving our legs and things. We do some simple breathing and such, and we do some opening up and yeah, getting tension out of your shoulders and neck. I don't know about other people, but I carried a lot of my stroke tension in my shoulders and neck. And to this day, 15 years later, it's funny because once you start this breathing and yoga stuff, all of a sudden you realize you're sitting around watching TV and you're half tensed up. It's the way you've sat your whole life. But all of a sudden you realize you're all tensed up, and but the key thing is you have this ability to kind of go, and just melt into your body for lack of a better term. And so, yeah. And by the way, everybody just did some yoga, so there's no reason to be scared of it. You know, I mean, it's not like people have this idea that, like, you know, they're going to have to do backflips or something that they can't. And it's very, very subtle. And I was, you know, Winnie and I were talking about how, you know, I said, like, I thought, well, how's this going to work? This isn't, you know, what's this going to do for me? You know, because they are so subtle. But over time, you know, something as simple as the twist just helps with your lumbar spine. Everything that you do when you move, especially if you're mindfully moving, like yoga is, where you can work on different things. You know, some of the stuff we do opens up the hips. The hips are important to open up, and they're important to have right. I got some yoga blocks, and I noticed that, well, I've been doing the class without them, and I noticed when I did it this week with the yoga blocks that I got some real lack of symmetry going on. I can't drop my affected leg onto the yoga block like I can easily do with my other one. And one thing I noticed when you were just doing that simple demo, this is something that you have to be aware of as a stroke survivor if you do yoga. And that is, you know, you say, you know, go this way, go this way. Well, guess what? When I went this way to my affected side, what did I do? Okay, now I got good posture, right? So I go this way to my unaffected side. And then what do? Watch the front of my shirt. When you go this way, what's happening? I'm leaning, aren't I? So you have to be careful to, as a stroke survivor, you have a tendency to lean towards that affected side. Like everybody, I'll give you a little clue, and now you'll notice it from now on. When we're sitting in these Zoom meetings, a lot of times I notice that I get backwards when I think about it. I notice that my head goes this way just a little bit. And so I'll look and I'll go, straighten it back out. So you have to be real careful again with alignment when you're just doing something as simple as that, because I broke that alignment when I did that simple thing, and it'll do you a lot more good if you maintain that body posture and just move your neck, because that's what you're trying to do. Shouldn't get your shoulders or the center line involved.
And that's the biggest cue for anyone, really, stroke survivor or not, is that your sitting bones are rooted in a chair yoga class. So they're never moving up with you or over it. Everybody wants to go, wee! They'll do it to both sides. You know, stroke survivors are all hyper aware, you know, most of the time of one more than the other. Sometimes it's all over, but usually it's just one over the other. But I think all this talk about alignment is I have to add that we have to remember that our bodies are not symmetrical. They're not. Okay, so if we think that we're going to get into perfection, you're not. And allow your body a little bit of a wherever. This is not even my stroke side. This is my good side. And I go over here more. So we have to be kind more than anything to ourselves about where we are and allow our bodies to be what they're going to be, and gently have spaces like this to remind us to come back. You know, we need this community and this reminder, because it's like you need that encouragement to have, but also know that it's okay to not be in alignment. Our bodies, it's funny to me because our bodies want to give the illusion that they are symmetrical. We have two eyes, we have two shoulders, we have two arms. So it's like, okay, it's the same on this side as the other. And it gives the illusion that, yes, we're like gingerbread men, you know, like if you open us up with, but we're not. Humans are so not. Nothing about our bodies are. And this is where the yoga anatomy stuff, it's really interesting, because they do like digs where they find like human bones and stuff to show that everybody that's on here right now has a different size femur. Our femur bone is not, your femur bone is your longest bone, right? From your knee to your hip. And not one of them looks the same among humans. Not one of them. And they do these cross comparison things for yoga, specifically to teach yoga teachers that they can't cue, like, bring your shoulders down and back, and then look around the room and look at who's doing it and who's not doing it. You can't really do that because everybody's shoulder girdle is different. There are no bones that look the same. And it's really neat actually to see cross comparisons of bones, because you think like, and I even say stuff like, well, humans are more similar than we are different. You know, like we have more in common than we don't. But in terms of alignment, I think it's important to at least acknowledge that other side of it, that give yourself that okay, that pat on the back to be a little out of alignment, or to be a little more tired today, or to need a little more rest, or to be a little less aware, or maybe a little more forgetful or whatever, because that's a part of human existence, stroke or not. It's okay. And that's a big part of the way that I teach, is always stay in a place of like, you're loving yourself, you're honoring yourself, you're taking care of yourself, you're not bullying yourself. There's never a bullying voice that's like, you're not doing that right. It's always a loving, encouraging nudge. And that's really hard. And that's when like, I think Angelina and we connected on like the changes that it makes in your brain, because it really starts to change the way that like your thoughts, changes the way that you're thinking about things, and specifically the way that you're thinking about yourself. Like, yeah, it changes a lot. The yoga, some would say that yoga is like a thought control practice, right? Because
I like to call it, I don't mean to interrupt, but I like to call it it's the communicator. It is the way, because we can't physically use a tangible language to communicate within our body structure on the layers that are within it. And that goes all the way down to the cells, and each piece, each intricate piece, each trip part has this cellular expression, and within each one, they have their own, you know, so it's so intricate. And to me, it is the ultimate communicator. Whenever you engage in a proper breath into your body, whether it be with movement or without movement, it begins to change the way that your cells mechanically communicate inside of your body. And those cells, if you start this practice, those cells continue to change. And they change that message into a whole healthy body. Now, it's not just about body movement and yoga. Body movement is so important, or body movement and breath. Body movement is so important for anybody, period, whether you've had a stroke or not. But once you've had such a traumatic impact into your central nervous system, it has a residual effect, and it affects all over the place. And that stroke could have come from something like a leaky gut, you know? And like, I think like trying to put these pieces together has been it's been quite a challenging process to understand exactly what is going on inside of your body, and taking the time to implement practices like this is taking the time to sit with your body internally and speak to your body in a different way. That's the mechanical way. And that mechanical way actually changes your body on a physiological level. And
Yeah.
that's where your communication in your cells are. It's all about
I love that
mechanics.
so much, because I think sometimes we forget that like our body is alive. You know,
Yeah.
you're like alive. You're alive. Like you're beating, you're vibrating, you're everything. And those cells are kind of like, is this doing this? Hold on. Your cells are, like I always say that your body is always talking to you. There's always a communication process that's happening. Something is firing, and your body is like a firing squad, or not a firing squad, like a like a emergency crew, right? That when something starts to need your body's attention, like all of your cells go like, oh, okay. And then the blood rushes there, and then it's like attending to it. It's like your body is really quite incredible. Like the way that
there's all kinds of responses
Yeah,
that get triggered because of different
all
things.
day long it's talking to you. The issue is that most of the time we just don't notice it. And we like Ralph said, when you come into yoga and you're doing it for a while, you all of a sudden notice you're sitting on the couch one day and you're really tense. And then you notice it and you're like, oh, have I always been like this? I don't know. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't, but maybe I'm just noticing it now. And then you're able to like communicate. I love that word just as a representation of what you're doing, because you're communicating back to your body. Like, it's okay. It's okay. Relax. Relax. All things are good. It's all right. You're safe. You're sitting in this chair. You're safe in your home. Whatever you have to say to yourself to get yourself into that state of being able to find really the most expansive and the deepest breath. Like I think there's a guy, his name is Leslie Kaminoff. He's like a yoga, very popular, very famous, I would say, yoga anatomist, I think he would call himself. He's like a functional movement guy. And he talks about how breathing is like this three-dimensional almost creature, right? That is within us. And there really isn't a wrong or right way to breathe necessarily, but there's patterns that we develop that, whether through life experiences or through having a stroke, make our breath maybe tend to be at one side or tend to be very shallow. And then we might want to change that breath pattern, right? Explore something different and see, well, what happens if I take a breath and I sit like this? What happens if I take a breath and I try to make my belly come out? What happens if I take a breath and I try to make my, different things that you're doing to just change a pattern, change something. It's not that you were breathing wrong or that you were breathing right, because that's really, I think people then get the idea that they're like bad. And then we develop these ideas that like, oh, I can't do yoga because I'm bad at it. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I like to encourage people that there really is no wrong or right way to do yoga or to breathe, but it's just a pattern. You get into a pattern of movement. You get into a pattern of breathing like this, breathing here. Then if you sit up, and like I said, you take a breath here, or you take a breath here, or you take a breath into your diaphragm with your hands on your ribs. What's that feel like? You know, and then the messages start to change. That's when the cells start to go, oh, okay, we're with you now. We're there. We're moving, we're going. And then the whole, like, I don't even know what the word for it is, like the physiology of your body, your whole everything.
It's like a balance, you know, it's like a balance of keeping your cortisol in check and the balance of keeping your pH levels balanced with the oxygen and the carbon dioxide within your body system. And that balance is such a beautiful dance of life. It comes with everything that life comes with. But I love what you just said about how, like, I always teach into breathing into your diaphragm and engaging that diaphragm, because that diaphragm, without it engaged, it imbalances everything, and it increases the fight, flight, freeze response and decreases the rest and digest. And like, since I've been studying all of this, it's really profound. I love a gentleman called Dr. Andrew Huberman. I follow him. I watch everything he does. He is so fascinating. And I really like what he speaks about, you know, when your body is the problem, or I'm sorry, when your mind is the problem, look to the body for a mechanical switch, which is so true, because once you start moving the body with breath and with this light body movement like yoga is, and it's quite challenging, and it's so exciting because as you move through it, you improve, and the improvement, like the subtle improvements that you start to see, oh my gosh, those are wins to me along this journey, some of the biggest wins that I've had. And I don't know, I just think that it's the best tool to use, organic tool.
I could not agree with that more. I always tell people, like, it's free. It's always with you. You're never going to be somewhere and be without it. And so you might as well use it. Like, I found it so interesting. You know, I'm dealing with a lot of like shoulder issues and my whole shoulder like collapsing. I don't have the subluxed shoulder that's like going off. I have the shoulder that's coming in and collapsing. And through a yoga anatomy training that I did, she helped me remember and really reinforce the idea that a lot of your shoulder muscles are accessory breathing muscles. So if you're thinking that you're going to strengthen your shoulder by doing 100 of these, I might suggest maybe you sit and do 100 minutes of breathing, because you're going to be working more deep muscles that are supporting that shoulder. Your shoulder is really cool and really like complex. The lady was saying like she could have spent her whole career just like studying the shoulder because it's that cool, and like the muscles, because like they all attach here. They're right around your diaphragm. They're probably straight through the center of your body. You know, I think we often forget that like our body is not compartmentalized in terms of shoulder, hip. No, your shoulder and your hip are connected. You know, you
have big sheets that start up in the back of your head.
Yes, they come out your subaxillary here, and they
2 or 3 sheets, and they're connected down towards your core and your back. The core is key to everything. Core is the somebody once said, John Loomis said, core is like the crane that holds your shoulder up. And if you don't have good core, you're kind of fighting a tougher battle in terms of getting your arm moving. You're saying the same thing with.
That was the whole issue that I was having. I was stuck for like 8 or 10 years in this shoulder that I never understood why it wasn't moving. And I would do exercises. I would be able to do these types of things and do them and use the bands, but it never got any better. And I'm like, what the heck? And it's because I wasn't being reinforced to get into those deep core muscles. I'm not talking about doing sit-ups. I'm not talking about using, like an ab curler thingy. I'm talking about like those deep muscles. So like seated on a chair, if you were to raise one knee up and then set it down and then raise the other knee up, you're using your deep core and you're using part of your psoas. Your psoas is like the sticks of a tent, right? It's what holds everything up. It's the only muscle that doesn't run along a bone. And it connects basically from your lower rib to your femur, right? So it runs basically through the center of your body. So when we talk about, or when I talk about posture and how I have this like tendency to slump and slouch, and I still do, I don't know if that will ever go away, but just bringing more awareness into, are my hips relaxed? Does my psoas have space to drop down and really to shoot up and support everything? It's like a corset, right? It's like a tightening through your whole, like below your navel. And somehow that opened up space in my shoulder. So I know that, like, I know that because I feel it in my own body. And I'm like, oh, okay. So the more I work on my core, the more my arm relaxes, and then I can start to strengthen. But I often worry that like stroke survivors sometimes just push too hard and do things too intensely that, like, maybe don't use the weights, maybe just breathe. Like, and people don't want to hear me say that. They're like, okay, Rachel, yeah, right. That's not going to do anything for me. I'm like, okay, then don't.
Yeah, I totally understand. It's been kind of, I think it's in doctors' heads and PTs and OTs where just like a good old fashioned strengthening will do the trick. And sometimes it's a lot more than that.
Right. Right. A good, like, yeah, you're going to do all these like band exercises and then just be better. Well, but it's not, we have the body, we're feeling.
That all helps, but yeah, it all helps, but there's a lot more to it than just.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that those repetitious exercises can be good once the body is moving more freely. But if you're so tight and trying to do something and just doing this, I would question, maybe go to a breath class for a few weeks before, and then come back to that and do it again. Because first of all, your muscles need oxygen. So if you're not breathing into that part of the body to do something, like I will have people get into poses sometimes. And I laugh because I do it myself, right? We want to do it. We want to do it right. We want to like be doing it right. And so we get into it and then we're like, am I doing it? I'm doing it, right? I'm doing it, right? And you're so focused on like the holding of the pose that like you're missing the whole yoga. The yoga has just gone by you. You've gotten into something within the ego that wants you to achieve something, do it right, get the praise for it, and you've lost the yoga. You've lost the essence of what is there, is the relaxation. And so to come out of it, oftentimes I myself come out of a pose and then go back in it. with the eye of, I'm not going to go as far. My ego is not going to tell me I need to look a certain way, that I needed, because we have all these mental images now in our brain of yoga pants, yoga mats, yoga, all this stuff that now we're thinking, if we don't look like that, we're not doing yoga right. We're not really, and it's actually the opposite. So like, I just keep telling people like, maybe don't do as much. Like if you're working on a forward fold, touching your toes, the last thing you want to do is send yourself down and just try to reach your toes. You're going to hurt your hamstrings. You're going to hurt more than less your shoulders, probably your head. What you want to work on is this, right? This backwards and forwards, because a forward fold is literally folding your body in half. So you're bringing your torso to your thighs. This is a forward fold. This is a fold. I'm just on my butt. This is a fold. So you're here. And of course, this is very hard. People come here and they're like this, you know, they're too wide. I can't get in. I can't. Well, this is the way that you get there, right? And you can really sit yourself forward on your chair, or I'm sitting flat with my legs out like in a staff pose, like straight, right? Which even works it even more. But if you're seated, your feet are just on the ground and you're just going back. As you go back, I'm sorry.
Hey, you're sneezing. Go ahead, Rachel.
Oh, okay. As you go back, you feel your core kind of start to engage, right? And so you know that you're doing something there as you go back. And then as you come forward, and you just move ever so slowly, like you don't want to go too fast because you're going to have like dizziness or stuff come up, but you just start to come forward and back. So that is almost like counterintuitive, right? Because we think, well, if I want to reach my toes, I should just reach my toes.
You know, when I go walking, sometimes I see money on the floor, coins. I can go halfway down and then I see what it is, like a quarter or something, but I don't pick it up. I just make sure that I can see it. So I step on the quarter and then I keep walking. Is that okay?
Sure. Sure. You know what you're doing is you're doing a halfway lift. This is why I know that people are good at yoga by being born. By being born a human and having a human body, you are naturally good at yoga because your body will do things, movements that are so-called yoga poses that are just, let's call them what they are. They're natural functional movements. You're pausing, you're stopping, your hands are on your knees, you're in a halfway lift. You're there, and that's a really strong pose to be in. A lot of times in studios, they teach it as kind of like you're passing through it. You're going from up to middle to halfway lift to down, and you're just passing through those. But if you were to stop at each one, you know, reaching up, stopping at the heart, coming forward with that flat back, resting your hands on your knees and just stopping, just stop, breathe right there. That's a really good core exercise, what you're doing.
Okay.
So I would say keep doing that. You don't have to pick it up, but you're sending the message there. One day you might just go reach down, pick it up and be like, look at that. I didn't even have to think about it. But what you're doing now is you're almost intuitively building that strength and stopping in the halfway lift. You know, we'll hopefully have time to do a full class at some point, right? To really go through a lot of these movements because they're so simple and you can do them, kind of call yoga like building blocks. You know, you can do them in small increments. You can do them a little bit. You can do them a lot of it. You can do them in a chair, not in a chair, at the wall, not in the wall. You can find right? I think that's the beauty of yoga, is that it kind of helps you or forces you to be a bit creative and think, how could I do that? Hold on, give me a second. Like it's that's what I'm always saying in my classes, because sometimes it takes me a really long time to set something up. You know, they'll say like, go grab 2 blocks, go grab 2 blankets, go grab your chair, come on back. And by the time I get back, they're like already doing the pose. And I'm like, wait, hold on. I'm just getting my stuff. Like, that's one thing that I think the yoga community has to just go a little slower. Like, we'll get there. Just tell us what to do. Let us figure it out. Take a moment. And it's good thinking practice, right? For your brain to actually see something. Think. Give me a second. I'm going to go get something. I'm going to be back. And I'm going to get into that shape or get into that posture, whatever. And it's fun to be just exploring that and to be, I wonder if I could do that. Or, I wonder if I could do that. Or maybe I could do that. Or maybe I could, or maybe I shouldn't do that. Or, you start having all these thoughts. And that's really cool, because you're able to create kind of like a hobby of something that you're doing, but you're doing it for your body, which is like a bonus, because there's a lot of dumb hobbies out there that wouldn't do you any good. This is one that's like gonna restore you. Like, I've literally made a yoga room in my house, like to just have my stuff there, be able to go there, play around with whatever I need. And I feel like it saves my, like you said, I want to be able to walk. So I need to do this so that I can keep my motor function going. One lady told me that, like, what was it? It was some cute, like, motion is lotion. I was like, I'm gonna steal that. This is like an older lady that I was talking to, and I was like, because it's true. We need that lubrication, and not just stroke survivors, but stroke survivors more maybe, but everybody needs movement. I always say, like, movement is medicine. It's like the best form of medicine for your body, to just move a little bit. And even if it's just like a little arm swing, like an arm swing is a huge deal for stroke survivors, right? And we want to get that arm swing back. And if you just spend 5 breaths or something, swinging your arms side to side, swinging, and then maybe twisting to the side, going all the way over and to the other side. And just that, that's like 5 minutes. Like, it's pretty valuable stuff.
It's so funny that you said that, because I used to tell my husband all the time, I feel like the Tin Man and I need an oil can.
I don't know if you guys ever see, there's like a whole bunch of yoga memes that are like of the Tin Man, and he's standing on a yoga mat and he's like, it says something like time for yoga or something. But that is like the story of my life. Like, everything gets so tight. I've often wondered sometimes, because I play a bit with yoga and like I do headstands and stuff. So I wondered for a period of time, was the yoga possibly making things worse? Just because I was like curious about it. Like, was I hurting myself? And I had a bunch of friends that were like, you're going to hurt yourself doing all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, so I stopped. I was like, well, I'm going to stop for a week and I'm going to see. And my body like hated me. Like, my body got so tight. Everything got so tight. And like, I was like, yeah, okay, it's definitely not the yoga that's going to hurt me. It's the not moving that's going to hurt me. It's the just sitting around and not doing anything that's going to hurt me. And so, yeah, I feel like the Tin Man too. I've lived that. I lived that life.
Why don't we let everybody go eat lunch? And we've got this Wednesday open. You and I have talked about, continuing this, and I'll make the.
That's what I want to know.
We'll work towards that. I'll make the call to Michelle, and you and I can talk about what we want to do, like Wednesdays going forward, because we'd love would love to work towards having a class if you're willing. We've all found Angelia's breathing, well, those of us who attend have found Angelia's breathing class very helpful. And I know that people would find a yoga class helpful. So you and I can talk about what, the next steps are. I've got this little idea about maybe doing some kind of a demo, getting, me and Winnie and a few other people, Angelia, who've done some yoga, to do a little sort of like a class and talk about the benefits of it, but it would be like a closed class, and then maybe move towards an open class. But I'm open to any kind of ideas. Just because I have an idea doesn't mean that, it's the best idea out there. It just means I haven't thought of anything better. So I'm going with the best I could come up with.
Do like all of that. Yeah, I'm down to do like all of that. I think an initial demo might be nice, because we could have someone in a chair, we could have someone standing, we could even have someone on a mat doing all different levels of, see where you can fit in, because there is a place for everyone to find. And you may even find that you do some of it in the chair and then you decide to do some of it standing. And then maybe you're standing for a while and you start to get dizzy, and then you're like, I'm gonna go back to the chair. And so you can kind of like find whatever works for you, find whatever, then we could get into like more of like if you're doing this on your own at home, like these are ways to do, like a whole, like, I'm a huge believer in yoga in bed, and doing it before you get out of bed, doing at least maybe a little bridge with a deep breath, or like the figure 4, the pigeon, or knees to the chest for a big breath, that sort of thing. And then maybe 5 minutes of yoga is really all that you do each day, but you're integrating it in some way. And then I kind of say it just takes on a life of its own. And you might be emailing me saying, hey, I want to try a headstand, or hey, I want to do something, because it may just pull you in like that. Or you may be like, hell no, I don't like this. I don't like to be alone with my thoughts. That is not for me. And you can never do it again. That can help.
I'm willing to be the one. I'm willing to do, like, I can go into warrior, like I said. I'm willing to be the person. I'm willing to embarrass myself on camera and be the person that tries things that are beyond what I'm, comfortable doing, to show the difference.
I'm pretty comfortable with that too, so.
I think, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I've done some pretty wild stroke recovery stuff. I think when this happened and I was so young, it's like a lot of PTs are just like, we don't know what to do with you. So I've done some pretty unglamorous, crazy, wild things that have helped, have not helped.
If you have not
I've
gotten
been somebody's theory.
stuck in a yoga pose yet, like, you're missing out on life, because there is some, like what you're saying, there's something to be said about just kind of exploring things and just seeing, like, I don't care how I look right now, I'm just gonna try it, I'm gonna get there.
So I just want to put out there, if there was any stretch or position for a shoulder blade. I have a left affected side, and my left shoulder blade is killing me.
Okay.
I can't even sit.
Let's talk about that, because, hold on. There is what I'm finding is that this problem is really quite pronounced with people, and I'm a bit nervous and cold, so my hand is gonna stay kind of closed, but I don't really care, right? I'm just gonna keep it here, right? And so thread the needle is something that you could do on all fours. What it is you're taking the arm up and you're coming through. Now here, what you would do is you would come here, right? Like, you're gonna sit here and you're gonna start to press your shoulders into an X. Then you're gonna press whichever shoulder is hurting. You're gonna take that shoulder. Like, for me, my left side is affected, but I get more pain in my right shoulder. So it's like, okay, but you're pressing, so you can do it here. Like I'll show it here, here. My left arm is gonna come around my back and I'm gonna come here. You're gonna look up and away. And you're basically breathing into that shoulder, that tip of the shoulder. I know what you're talking about. I know the kind of pain that you get there. I feel that. And then do the other side. So you might lengthen out here, pull it away, draw the other arm behind your back, look up. Then if you're like, want more, you could come with both arms. And you can even cat-cow here. So you're here, you're making your X as wide as you can. You're pressing into your feet. You're nice and grounded. You can't see my feet here now, but they're nice and even under my hips here. And then you cat-cow. So you're gonna lift forward and round in. And cat-cow itself, I should say, is a really nice shoulder opener. But if you change the positioning of the arms, like then you can come here. So you can come here, opposite elbows, and cat-cow. Lift up a bit, come around, move side to side, pulling that shoulder open and away. Even if you just do like holding here and like this. Right? It might not even be that much, right? It might be more like this. Then you might come to center, come up, down. Then you might combine them all and come up, come around, and down. These are really nice for the shoulder, right? Anything here. You can go as so far as to like come into your forward fold with your arms like this. Let your body kind of hang down. You can also use like a bed or a counter or something to throw your elbow up on and then just lean like this into the shoulder. We do that a lot. We do this one. It's called thread the needle if you want to look it up. You'll see somebody on all fours doing it up and under, and then they go back into like child's pose.
You know, just a couple movements that I did right now, as you were explaining, I was trying to do a little bit. It already feels better. That's amazing.
Isn't it? I'm telling you that, yeah, I have.
That's great.
It is
So-
amazing.
Sophia, I'll pull a clip of just those couple minutes for you and send it to you so you don't have to find
Okay.
it
Sounds
or-
good.
or watch 2 hours of stuff to do it.
Right,
Was it Abe and Angelia waving at each other or something?
Oh,
Anyway.
no, Heather said she had to leave, I believe,
Right.
and
I think we all need to leave.
I was
Myself.
just waving to Heather.
Oh,
I-
I'm not
Thank you for coming. I know what you're feeling. I just joined this community probably about a year and a half ago. And that was the first time it's been 27 years since I've had a stroke. And a year and a half ago was the first time I've met anybody else that has. So I understand the feeling, Heather. And today is a great day.
And Heather, I noticed you connected with me on Instagram. I'm new to it. I'll figure out how to send you a link to, we have a nutrition after stroke group that you might be interested in. And it's got about 1,500 members and we post like recipes, things we're cooking. Well, I posted a podcast on magnesium the other day, you know, all kinds of stuff. It's basic nutrition stuff because nutrition's like yoga. I mean, you should do it whether you had a stroke or not. We call it after stroke, and it's all stroke survivors. And, it's kind of interesting because sometimes, people make one-handed dishes, make dishes with one hand. That came out wrong. Anyway, glad to see here. I think we ought to let Rachel and everybody go eat lunch because it's getting to be lunchtime even on the West Coast. So
I'm already here.
come on back when you can, Heather, and I'll make a note to make sure that I connect you. Or you use Heather Taylor on Facebook also?
I do.
And which groups are you a member of? Are you a member of Stroke Buddies or Young Stroke, or how'd you?
I'm not a member of any groups. I want to be desperately. I'm so alone and isolated, and I don't know anything.
Ralph has like 20 groups. Ralph is the guy to know.
You should come hook her up with our wellness group.
Yeah, okay. How did you find out about this then?
I saw Rachel on Instagram.
Oh.
And I sent Rachel you a message because I was so grateful. I don't know if you remember that. Maybe
so Rachel passed the link on to you.
I saw her on Instagram and kind of see her posts. And I was doing not a lot of yoga. My husband is a yoga teacher part-time, so I'm familiar and I'm part of a yoga community, but I really haven't been that active. And recently, and I had my stroke just over 90 days ago, and I've been home. I don't go anywhere. I don't do anything. I'm in, I'm kind of, my left side is very numb, so I'm not really doing too much of anything. I was trying to walk a little bit each day in the beginning, but when I was walking, my numbness was getting worse and it was getting really scary. And now I'm having numbness on the right side also, which means my whole body's numb some of the times. So it's just a very difficult time for me right now. And having been so athletic and active before, and now I'm, really struggling with this, compromise. So I'm trying to, I can do everything for myself, but it's really challenging for me. And now I'm not driving because of my right foot is also getting very numb sometimes. But I'm just online. I'm an online warrior, but I'm not really in any groups so much.
I sent you an email on Instagram. If nothing else, you can email me back and I'll figure out how to send I'm not sure. I've not done anything like send the Facebook links to, are you on Facebook as Heather Taylor?
I am.
Yes?
I am.
Okay, well, maybe I can find you that way too, because on Facebook, I know how to, I'll send you a friend request. You accept, then I can invite you in any one of the groups I want. I won't overload you. I'll just do wellness, nutrition in the main group. And that should fix you up. And if you have other interests, we have a couple, we have a few specialty ones, but those are the three big ones in my mind. We have, puzzles and mind games, guitar, gaming, things that people like to try and get back to. So why don't we wrap this up unless anybody's got anything else?
Ryan said some stuff in the chat.
Oh, we were posting a couple of the support groups that we're part of on Facebook. I think.
Is that one you were talking about? The stroke support group? Is that the Jocelyn's? Is that Jocelyn? Is that her support group?
Not sure. Let me look.
Oh wait, maybe that's called Never Give Up Hope or Stroke Warriors. I forget.
No.
Hers is Never Give Up.
Oh yeah, okay.
Jocelyn's is Never Give Up. There's a stroke survivor group too. That's the one I think with the orange. And then there's Positive Ins and Outs that I think also has like something orange in the front of theirs.
Well, the one called Stroke Survivor Support Groups run by Kim Troffin, and it's got about 15,000 members. It's got a gray background. It doesn't matter what groups I would tell you it might, because I run a bunch of groups. It
does matter. These groups are the best groups out there.
They're going to probably be your most informative.
you're in, because the other groups, you're going to find a lot of people just sitting there and bitch and complain. And it's a pool of negativity. And it is so frustrating being
Yeah,
in a
it's-
group that isn't trying to solve the problems, you know, or at
It's-
least trying to dive deep into what's happening to get solutions. I don't know. I found that to be very true in a lot of the other groups. And I
yeah,
joined
yeah,
many of
some
them.
groups are just just a quick
Angelia,
fix.
I'll put your check in the mail. I have to deal with Angelia. She chimes in, says how wonderful all the groups are, so that I don't have to. Because, you know, it makes me look kind of self-serving. So
I
I'll put the
expect double this time.
double. Okay,
Double. Oh, yeah.
Our
all
group
right.
is, I
I'll
think our
double
group
it.
is really good.
What's 2 times 0? What's 1,000
Yeah.
times 0? Oh, it's still 0. Isn't it?
Oh,
Here's the deal, like, okay, we laugh, we have fun, we kid each other, we do a lot of different things, but we're kind of trying to be serious about the science and the methodology and try and take a focused approach on recovery. And that's why I like to introduce people to things like yoga. You know, Heather, I've also got a YouTube channel with 310
Oh,
videos,
okay,
about
thanks.
120 of them
No. Oh, it's a call.
are size
Supposed to be a
videos.
call.
So, you know, there's lots of resources, and thank you, Angelia, for the, but, you know, I make a real point of, we run a free speech zone, but I'll tell you what, people don't complain in stroke buddies like they do in young stroke survivors. I mean, it got this all kinds of stuff going on. Now it's a step above a lot of the groups because we, Jenny Golder and I and a couple other people try and answer all the negativity with positivity. And we'll see if they all want to say, well, I need to talk about it. And we've got a group tomorrow where we talk about it. And I posted 4 times in that group and 6 other groups. Everybody wants to talk, but they don't show up at the meeting, but that's another story. But I worked hard on the culture of stroke buddies to be positive. I don't delete memes. Nobody posts them in stroke buddies. They know I don't really like them. And it's just, see, people respond to the culture around them. So you come into like stroke buddies and you see people posting videos of themselves getting better. And you think, oh, that's what I need to do. Watch these videos and eventually, you know, post some of my own to help other people. So we try and have a real positive culture because first impressions are important. And when you come into a community, you want to be welcome. You want to feel like it's got something like I said earlier, I operate all this stuff on like, I figure everybody out there is just like I was early on. What's in it for me? You know, how does this relate to my getting better? And so that's the you know, the driving force for me. So I'll make sure that somehow or another respond to that email and I'll figure out how to do it on Instagram or find you on Facebook. And I may, I probably ought to end up cutting this out. So I'll do a quick little ending here, just so people don't have to listen to the whole thing about Facebook and Instagram. So I guess I will thank Rachel for taking all the time with us. I found it real helpful and useful. And like we said, Rachel, in the first time we talked, you know, both of us felt like, well, we ought to be working together. We've got common goals. So we'll keep at it. So thanks for everybody who came today and everybody who's watching on YouTube. And thank you. Namaste.
Well, thank you, Rachel. It was very
Rachel.
helpful, and definitely I want to learn more about it, and I found this very helpful. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you for
No
having
problem.
me here. I really
Hey, Rachel, if we just did a demo and then did your 4 classes, everybody should be have enough info to be on their own, right?
Exactly.
Plus I can record them. I can record them, and the people that want their handheld for more than 4 classes can go back and revisit those classes. And that way we be doing this for the rest of your life. Not that you mind, but maybe we could put some of that energy into like the Stroke Recovery Research Center and like getting a study done. that kind of thing to advance the bigger cause, which is to bring it to more and more and more people. So
Yes, I always say I love teaching, so I want to stay kind of rooted in this, meeting people. Thank you guys so much for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Rachel, I hope we can try this inversion yoga, because I think that's gonna be super interesting. I'm excited.
might
Inversion.
If you're willing to. I don't wanna be the one who pushes you.
No.
You might need an inversion to table.
Ask me, I'm getting like wheels are turning. So inversion,
All right,
definitely.
awesome.
You know, you can do an inversion with a chair. Like you don't have to be.
You know, they have a machine like that too. Like if you have machines at the gym, they have a machine like that too.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can go upside down, right?
Kind
You
of
go-
lay and then you, yeah.
All I got to say is I'm going to watch you do it first before I try it.
If you are on my Instagram, you will see all my like blunders, all my like crazy hiccups,
Well,
my like ways of getting up there, using a chair, using the wall, getting up there. And it's a pretty good way to look at your body and see where you're misaligned. When you're upside down, you can really see like what's wrong. So I kind of use it for myself as a tool to like correct where I'm leaning towards, where I kind of collapse in my core. And so I have to bring my butt. And so it's there's lots to do. I would be open to an inversion class, or at least starting with a, like what you said, if coming to the group classes and then recording a series of people doing 4 sessions. I think 4 sessions is enough to know what poses work for you, what you really could work on. And there's so much information out there that this has to be in large part your own choosing and your own researching. Get to a point where you're like, okay, now I know an hour flow I can do on a mat. I know an hour flow I can do in a chair. Now I'm gonna Google a bit. And I always tell people, don't Google yoga. Really done with me, because you're gonna see something and you're gonna immediately say, oh my God, I can't do that. Can't do that. But I've had people before bring me pictures of poses that they maybe have seen or want to do, and then we recreate it. You know, like, because you could take any pose and then just create it how it's going to work for your bodies.
Right.
Using the wall, using a chair, using the floor, using blocks, balls, sticks, weights, straps. Straps are something. So if you do the, like I send these to people, like if they sign up to do like sessions after and they want to continue it, you get a strap. And so then we're doing like strap stuff for the arms. There you go. There's so much, so much. It should be like a starter pack of like, you kind of sort of need maybe 2 blocks. I think that's why I like the idea of getting research behind this to get money in, so that when you sign up to do stroke yoga, you get this. Your house, so you get it at the hospital when you leave, and then you're set up to do these stretches. You know it. Like, you don't need me to do it. I can help you, sure, but you're your best teacher. And that's what any good yoga teacher will tell you. Like, if you go into a yoga class and they tell you otherwise, run. Like, the hell out of there, because you are in your body. You are your best teacher. The word guru actually means G-U-R-U. It's not some external, this person is going to help me, save me. No. Right here. And that's really all we need, is a block and a strap and the knowledge of a few of these little practices, little things. And you're like, oh, okay.
That's like step 4 in this whole thing. We've got past step 1. We'll work on step 2, a demo. We'll work on step 2A, getting some researchers interested. We do the 4 classes, and then, I'd love to my original idea was to hand everybody, all 800,000 people, a video on stroke recovery as they walked out of the hospital. So maybe they should have a whole package that includes like a yoga starter kit, videos, and I mean, that would be ideal, because it just seems crazy to me that 800,000 of us are sent out into the world to reinvent the wheel for ourselves without a whole lot of coordination from our fragmented healthcare system. Yeah, if you're a good advocate for yourself and you learn how to work the system, you're going to be a lot better, and you'll be able to do better with it. But it's still fragmented. It's still isn't delivering us everything that we need.
Yes.
It is, and it's
There.
accountability to this. It's
I'm surprised my cats haven't visited.
always, every time I get on my yoga mat, she's like right here. She's like, I'm just gonna sit here, I'm just gonna be with you. She's my like little yoga buddy. She's